Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast. We just finished up talking the Final Four matchups that are ahead in this weekend to come. Now we're going to be diving into the news that broke this morning about Bronny James declaring for the NBA draft. Bronny, of course the son of LeBron James, just finished up his freshman season at USC. And for the most part, it was a little bit quiet, a little bit underwhelming, not just from a personal standpoint of he himself, but the Trojans were massively disappointing in this year. Bronny ended up averaging 4.8 points per game, 2.8 rebounds per game, and 2.1 assists per game. He struggled with efficiency from the floor, while at times he showed good mechanics in some of his perimeter shooting, specifically the mid-range as well. At times looked nice for him. He finished the season on 37-27% shooting splits, so not great. He obviously had a very weird startup to the season where he went into cardiac arrest during a practice in late August, which forced him to miss the final weeks of training camp, and even the first 9 games of the regular season was a very scary situation at the time. He made his way back to the court, and again, he was fine. He showed some flashes, but I do think as an NBA prospect, he still is very raw. He seems like he is a good decision maker, but when he was playing at USC, he was just very timid. Didn't seem like he was playing with loads of conviction. Now, hard worker on defense for sure. There were times where USC would use him to pick up ball carriers on the other side of the court, ball handlers, I should say, on the other end of the court, and give them little full press court looks to slow down the opposing team's offenses. I just didn't think on offense he was very aggressive, which is pretty understandable considering the fact that he sort of came into the season later and he was playing with a handful of upperclassmen on that USC team. And even if you look at the freshman talent that was on the roster, Isaiah Collier was the real headliner, a potential lottery pick this year. He also dealt with injuries during the season as well that just led to, all in all, just a very disappointing year for USC. But rumors came out about Bronny entering the transfer portal a couple days ago. This wasn't confirmed until today. So, yes, he declares for the NBA draft, but also put his name in the transfer portal, meaning that he has a bunch of different options to sort of weigh in the coming weeks, where he has until May to decide whether or not he wants to stick with the draft process. One thing or another, he's likely not going to be back at USC. They just made a coaching change. We'll get more into that as well. But in terms of his draft prospect, I don't think that there's all that much hope for him. Now, multiple experts have removed him entirely from their 2024 mock drafts, and even if he was to be drafted, it would be likely a late second rounder. He could absolutely still look to try and develop on an NBA roster, maybe even a G League roster, if that's the route that he wants to go, that he's fed up with college itself. But to some degree, at least, he would be getting his chance. Yes, he has some sort of potential, but the biggest reason people think that, to a lot of degrees, is the fact that he is LeBron James' son, and I don't want to fully pin it on nepotism by any means, because like I said, I did think that there were real flashes in terms of being a quality, as of right now, a quality role player. Now we'll see if he can sort of develop himself to a higher level, but again, a smart player and everything, but in terms of that high level scoring or passing, or really, I mean, he's a talented defender. It's not like he has tremendous size at this moment, though. He's, of course, though, LeBron James' son. So there's a very real chance that he still can develop into the type of, maybe not quite the level of LeBron physically, but also I don't see any reason why not in reality. Doesn't have the height at the moment right now, but we'll see with all of that. But Bronny has clearly said that he wants to make a name for himself, which is obviously a little bit difficult when you are practically named LeBron James Jr. and your father is one of the top 2 players, if not the top player in NBA history. I've been saying I think that Bronny would really benefit from staying another year in college. I think that he just isn't very refined at the moment, and the best way to refine his skills is to get actual playing time. Doing so in college, I believe, would be the best path for him. Now, maybe he could do it in the G League, but again, while he's still physically developing, I feel like it would not hurt him whatsoever to, play against, I wouldn't even say it's lower competition. I mean, G League, they're professional athletes. They're NBA players. And I just feel like he can sort of work his way into that with another sophomore year in college. But I'm definitely not trying to be, too negative on a 19-year-old. Like, there's no sort of animosity coming out here. I just feel like we have to evaluate him as an actual NBA prospect because of the fact that that's what he is. Nothing's given necessarily in the NBA, and I just don't think he's ready for the leap yet. But if he does go back to college, like I mentioned, it's likely not going to be with USC. He posted on social media thanking USC for the time that he spent there, so it doesn't seem like he's necessarily... He's signaling already that he is not going to be back at USC. That's outside of the fact that all of these signs really to put your name in the draft pool and the transfer portal means that he is considering all of his options, and the fact that they just went through a coaching change at USC probably helps to solidify his decision to not return there. Andy Enfield was the one that recruited him, but he stepped away from USC. He's now with SMU. The school then hired Eric Musselman to be his replacement. I'm actually a big fan of Musselman, the Muss Bus. He spent the last half decade with Arkansas, brought them to multiple Elite Eights, but now it doesn't seem like he's going to go there, so assuming he sticks with college, where could he possibly land? The number one place that is being rumored is Duquesne. Keith Dambra, the head coach of the Dukes for the past couple decades, just led Duquesne to their first NCAA tournament appearance since 1977, and they upset BYU to win their first tournament game since 1969, but he just retired. The reason I bring up his name specifically is because he was the former head coach of LeBron James at St. Vincent St. Mary when he was in high school, so there's a level of relationship there, and they now named Dambrot's lead assistant, Drew Joyce, to be the school's next head coach. Who is Joyce? Well, he was on that same team at St. Vincent St. Mary along with LeBron as a player during those years. So the personal relationship between LeBron and Joyce is really the main catalyst for these rumors. Seems like there would absolutely be a chance for Bronny to get playing time, to get looks, and I feel like there's maybe a level of difference in a good way for Bronny where just in a power conference with a lot more upperclassmen experience, he could go to Duquesne, who has received more buzz than they ever have because of their big win against BYU in the tournament this year. They play in the Atlantic 10, so not a power conference, but still a very solid conference as well. We see them get at large bids just about every year. I believe Dayton is in the Atlantic 10, and they got it this season. So they could be building something there, and Bronny could be a big-time part of that and have a role for himself at Duquesne that he did not have at USC, or if he were to try and look to go to any sort of a power conference school. So that's sort of been the popular front runner up to this point. There are other possibilities as well. I mentioned how Andy Enfield, the coach that recruited him to USC, is on his way to SMU. Not sure exactly the specifics of the type of relationship Enfield and Bronny had. I mean, Bronny got just under 20 minutes per game, who stuck with them all season. There was a brief stretch in February where Bronny was going through a little bit of a shooting slump, and Enfield sort of dipped down on Bronny's minutes for a bit there. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but it seems like the two have a solid relationship, so it is a possibility. And then another name that's been thrown out there, again, just sort of sticking, at least for today, I suppose, with the theme of these personal relationships, that Oregon has been rumored in large part due to the fact that they are this big-time Nike school. Obviously, LeBron James being pretty much the number one ambassador of Nike these past handful of years. And, you know, Oregon has a lot of talent that is headed out the door. Jermaine Couisnard and N'Faly Dante, they're two stars from the tournament this year. They're both seniors and going to be headed out. What did we see from Oregon this year? They really struggled with having any sort of additional depth with that. Head coach Dana Altman has utilized the transfer portal in the past, so this wouldn't be any sort of a foreign concept for him necessarily, and just going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Again, I'm naming all these college teams. There's a chance that he might not come back to college, which I can't say I think it would be a full-on mistake, but I definitely, from whatever position I have necessarily, I think that he would be benefited from coming back from another year. And I think it would be awesome if we could see, you know, college basketball get a good Bronny James season, as the sport has sort of struggled in the past couple of years with having true legitimate stars in the sport. So maybe it's selfish of me, I don't know, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And we are going to be taking our second break of the show. When we come back on the other end, we're going to be sticking with hoops for one more segment, talking about the NBA games from last night. So stick with us and we will be right back.